dear speakers from the Arab countries, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear participants from the UN agencies. I would like to salute to all from Beirut. Welcome to all of you to this regional event that is taking place for the first time in the region. Ladies and gentlemen, the UN OHCHR is launching today the regional consultations of the national mechanisms for implementation, reporting, and follow-up in the Arabic-speaking countries. These consultations come within the resolution that was adopted by the Human Rights Council in 2019 on promoting international cooperation to support national mechanisms for implementation, reporting, and follow-up. Based on this resolution, it is up to the OHCHR to organize regional consultations in order to exchange expertise and best practices pertaining to establishing national mechanisms for implementation, reporting, and follow-up, and the impact on the commitments of states in the field of human rights in collaboration with all of the relevant stakeholders. Ladies and gentlemen, in light of these consultations at the regional level, we look forward all together to having a good dialogue during the 2 next days so that we can come up with strategic recommendations and practical recommendations that can help the states as well as the OHCHR in developing support programs and capacity building programs in the next stage. Please allow me now to start the opening session with an opening statement by the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Mrs. Michelle Bachelet. يسرني أن
follow-up. These consultations are not only an opportunity to build capacity, but also a chance to engage in a peer-to-peer learning exercise. The focus on national mechanism is critical. After all, international human rights mechanisms are at the end simply tools to improve human rights performance at the national level. True human rights impact can be achieved only through committed engagement of national actors. When states started setting up national mechanisms for reporting and follow-up years ago, their purpose was primarily to deal with reporting requirements and coordinate follow-up to the increasing number of recommendations from international human rights mechanisms. Since then, the role and impact of many of these mechanisms have evolved, and they are today much more wide-ranging. Indeed, modern national mechanisms represent a shift in human rights systems. They rebalance the relationship between the national and international human rights engagement. With this shift, national mechanisms are moving from being mere transmitters of information and recipients of recommendation to becoming proactive generators of knowledge and innovative practices on how to meet human rights obligations. For example, for modern national mechanisms, reporting to international human rights mechanisms is not an objective as such. Rather, they use it as a tool to self-assessment, regular healthy engagement with civil society, and an opportunity to learn how diverse international observers see these national experiences. In doing so, national mechanisms build national ownership, enhance human rights expertise, and stimulate dialogue at the national level on human rights issues. The shift I have described is taking place in many countries. It can be advanced through constant exposure to experiences of other states and by expanding community of practice, including online. These consultations build on such premises. The Human Rights Council has recognized that states have acquired rich and diverse experiences with national mechanisms, and that it is time to learn from each other and share good practices. Through Resolution 42/30, the Human Rights Council mandated my office to organize 5 regional consultations on national mechanisms for implementation, reporting, and follow-up in order to facilitate international cooperation, to exchange on different national experiences and explore complementarities and synergies between national mechanisms. I'm pleased that many representatives of mechanisms have joined these consultations to discuss what works, what does not in specific contexts, and what are the lessons learned. You will have an opportunity to explore how different institutional arrangements ensure sustainability and engagement with international and regional mechanisms. You will also have exchanges on such topical issues as integration of recommendations of international and regional human rights mechanisms in COVID-19 recovery plans, synergies between human rights and SDGs reporting, and ensuring engagement of civil society. My office will document the conclusions and recommendations made at the 5 regional consultations in a report that will be submitted to the 50th session of the Human Rights Council. I hope that those who are looking to set up national mechanisms or to explore solutions for the challenges they encounter find insights and inspiration in these 2 days of exchange. I also hope this consultation will be followed by many formal and informal exchanges between national mechanisms, which my office will be keen to support. As you pursue these exchanges, I urge you to keep constantly in mind the ultimate objective of all our efforts, the realization and protection of human rights and fundamental freedoms as we aim to build back better. National mechanisms are the bridges between the goals, rights, and obligations that are enshrined in international human rights norms and their effective implementation. So let's work together to build new such bridges where they are missing and strengthen the ones that exist. Thank you very much.
أنتقل الآن إلى الكلمة الترحيبية الثانية المسجلة.
I now move to Mr. Ibrahim Salama, Chief of the Human Rights Treaty Branch in Geneva.
Dear participants, it's a pleasure for me on behalf of the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights to welcome you to this workshop on the national permanent mechanisms for reporting and follow-up. And just to capture in few seconds the 3 shifts that we hope we can achieve together. The first shift is from the international to the national level. It's there at your national level that the human rights action takes place and the changes take place. The second shift is from receiving human rights knowledge only to producing them as well. The international mechanisms are only tools for the national action and they're melting pot for the national experiences. The third shift is to move from the ready-made, the prefabricated, and really to see human rights action as a permanent work in progress, a permanent adaptation to different contexts and situations. This is the logic of the importance of the national permanent mechanisms. I wish you a useful peer-to-peer learning, and we look forward to learning from you and with you. Thank you very much.
I would like now to welcome Mr. Anki Kantitivi from the OHCHR in Geneva. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Lynn, and good morning. Good morning, everyone. Excellencies, experts, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a big pleasure and honor to open this consultation on behalf of the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, the regional consultations on the functions of the national mechanisms for implementation, reporting and follow-up for Arabic-speaking countries, where we will be discussing best practices, challenges and opportunities among state members. This is the second in the series of 5 regional consultations that the OHCHR is convening. Over the past decades, the international human rights system has expanded significantly with the adoption of new human rights treaties and mechanisms established to monitor and advise member states on their implementation. As, as was stressed by the High Commissioner for Human Rights in her video message, preparing reports to these mechanisms offers states a unique opportunity for a comprehensive self-assessment of the actual situation on the ground, in addition to reviewing their existing legislation and policies. The increasing tasks related to reporting to human rights and other bodies and following up on their manifold recommendations or decisions have led more and more states to seek more comprehensive, efficient, and sustainable institutional arrangements to engage with human rights mechanisms, notably through national mechanisms for implementation, reporting, and follow-up. Now, in many countries, these national mechanisms have become one of the key components of an effective national human rights protection system, helping overcome implementation gaps and bringing international and regional human rights norms and practices directly to the national level. They have also helped build national ownership, empower line ministries, and enhance human rights expertise among government institutions in a sustainable manner. They can facilitate communication within and across national institutions and allow for structured and formalized coordination with parliaments, judiciary, national human rights institutions, and, of course, civil society organizations. Through such institutionalized contacts, the voices of victims and their representatives may also be increasingly heard. Now, experiences have shown that by establishing and strengthening the functions of these national mechanisms, states can become better equipped to pursue the implementation of human rights obligations, deliver real impact, and thereby improve the everyday enjoyment of human rights for all. For the purposes of these consultations, our exchanges will focus on the engagement, coordination, consultation, and information management capacities of national mechanisms. I encourage you all to share good practices relating to their establishment and development, but also be open about the challenges encountered. And please see these consultations as an opportunity for true peer-to-peer learning. What transpires from these 2-day consultations will also help us in the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights and the United Nations in general refine the contours of our capacity building work. Our shared hope, as the High Commissioner stressed in her opening remarks, is that the outcomes of these consultations will ultimately contribute to better protection and promotion of human rights. Before I conclude, and bear in mind that these intergovernmental consultations have been mandated by the Human Rights Council, I would also like to suggest that you reflect on possible forms of future cooperation between new national mechanisms and the Human Rights Council, which, as you all know, is the main international intergovernmental body with a human rights mandate. At the end, I would like to thank in advance all the esteemed experts and speakers for their valuable contributions over the coming 2 days. And I look forward to open exchanges around experiences and lessons learned on national mechanisms. Thank you very much.
شكرا السيد كوركياكيفي على الإضاءة.
Thank you, sir, for having mentioned the role of the national mechanisms as tools to facilitate communication and coordination with parliaments, judiciary, as well as national institutions for human rights and civil society organizations in order to promote human rights and protect them. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now show you a documentary about the national mechanisms for implementation, reporting, and follow-up, in addition to the main capacities that they have. This will be the topic of our discussion during the consultations that will be held today and tomorrow.
المعلومات، فهي منشأة طبقاً لأحكام المعاهدة التي ترصدها. تتكون من خبراء مستقلين ومستقلات، مكلفين ومكلفات بمراقبة تنفيذ المعاهدة ذات العلاقة. يوجد حالياً 10 هيئات معاهدات حقوق إنسان. أما الإجراءات الخاصة فهي آلية تم إنشاؤها لتناول أوضاع قطرية محددة أو لتناول قضايا مواضعية في جميع أنحاء العالم. والإجراءات الخاصة هي إما فرد، مقرر خاص أو خبير مستقل، أو مقررة خاصة أو خبيرة مستقلة، وإما فريق عامل. ما هي الآلية الوطنية لإعداد التقارير والمتابعة؟ الآلية الوطنية لإعداد التقارير والمتابعة هي آلية وطنية عامة أو هيكل وطني عام ذو طابع دائم تناط به مهمة تنسيق وإعداد التقارير والتفاعل مع الآليات الدولية والإقليمية لحقوق الإنسان، بما في ذلك هيئات المعاهدات والاستعراض الدوري الشامل والإجراءات الخاصة، وتنسيق ومتابعة التنفيذ على الصعيد الوطني لالتزامات المعاهدة والتوصيات والقرارات المنبثقة عن هذه الآليات. تطلع الآلية الوطنية بهذه المهام بالتنسيق مع الوزارات والهيئات الحكومية المتخصصة مثل المكتب الوطني للإحصاءات والبرلمان والجهاز القضائي، وبالتشاور مع المؤسسات الوطنية المعنية بحقوق الإنسان والمجتمع المدني. الأنواع الرئيسية للآليات الوطنية لإعداد التقارير والمتابعة. تدل ممارسات الدول على 4 أنواع رئيسية من الآليات الوطنية، وهي الآليات المؤقتة والوزارية والمشتركة بين الوزارات والمستقلة مؤسسياً. ويشار إلى الآليات الثلاث الأخيرة على أنها آليات دائمة. الآلية المؤقتة تنشئها وزارة معينة أو لجنة مشتركة بين الوزارات لغرض إكمال تقرير محدد، وتحل حينما يسلم التقرير، فلا تحتفظ بذلك بأية قدرات أو ممارسات أو شبكات أو معارف مؤسسية. الآلية الوزارية هي آلية دائمة يقع مقرها في وزارة حكومية معينة، وتستبقيها الوزارة إلى ما بعد الانتهاء من إعداد أحد التقارير، فتحتفظ بقدراتها أو ممارساتها أو شبكاتها أو معارفها المؤسسية في مجال إعداد التقارير والمتابعة. الآلية المشتركة بين الوزارات هي آلية دائمة تنظمها وزارتان أو أكثر من خلال هيكل مشترك، غالباً ما تقوم على خدمتها أمانة تنفيذية تطلع بتنسيق جمع المعلومات وخدمات اجتماعات الآلية الوطنية وجمع المشاريع الأولى للتقارير. وهذه الآلية تحتفظ بقدراتها ومؤسساتها وشبكتها ومعارفها المؤسسية المتعلقة بإعداد التقارير والمتابعة. الآلية المستقلة مؤسسياً هي مؤسسة منفصلة تنشئها الحكومة، وتتولى مسؤولية التنسيق وكتابة التقارير والتشاور. تتمتع بميزانية مستقلة وموظفين مستقلين، وتنتظم في مديريات وبرامج فرعية داخلية. القدرات ال4 الأساسية للآلية الوطنية لإعداد التقارير والمتابعة. حتى تكون الآلية الوطنية لإعداد التقارير والمتابعة فعالة، يجب أن تتمتع بالقدرات ال4 الأساسية التالية: القدرة على التعاون والتنسيق مع الهيئات الدولية والإقليمية لحقوق الإنسان، وتنظيم وتيسير إعداد التقارير التي تقدم إلى الآليات الدولية والإقليمية لحقوق الإنسان على المستوى المركزي، والردود على البلاغات ومتابعة المسائل والتوصيات القرارات الواردة من هذه الآليات. القدرة على التنسيق، وتشمل القدرة وصلاحية تعميم المعلومات وتنظيمها وتنسيق جمع المعلومات من الجهات الحكومية والبرلمان والقضاء من أجل إعداد التقارير ومتابعة تنفيذ التوصيات. القدرة على التشاور، القدرة على تعزيز وقيادة المشاورات مع المؤسسات الوطنية لحقوق الإنسان ومؤسسات المجتمع المدني. القدرة على إدارة المعلومات، وهي تشمل تتبع إصدار التوصيات والقرارات عن آليات دولية وإقليمية لحقوق الإنسان وتصنيفها بحسب المضمون، وتنظيمها وتحديد الجهات الحكومية المسؤولة عن تنفيذها، كما تشمل وضع خطة لتنفيذ توصيات آليات حقوق الإنسان بما في ذلك المؤشرات والأطر الزمنية المحددة. كيف يمكن للآلية الوطنية لإعداد التقارير والمتابعة أن تفيد الدول؟ من خلال تنظيم وترشيد التعاون مع الآليات الدولية والإقليمية لحقوق الإنسان، بما في ذلك إعداد التقارير وتنسيق المتابعة، ومن ثم ضمان الاتساق على المستوى الوطني. من خلال تمكين جهات التنسيق الوزارية من الإبلاغ عن نظام حقوق الإنسان وتوصياته داخل الوزارات المشرفة عليها وشرح هذا النظام، ومن ثم المساهمة بشكل فعال في وضع السياسات وتكريس الممارسات من خلال إتاحة سبل التواصل المنظم والرسمي مع البرلمان والسلطة القضائية والمؤسسات الوطنية لحقوق الإنسان والمجتمع المدني، ومن ثم تعميم حقوق الإنسان على المستوى الوطني وتعزيز الخطاب المتعلق بحقوق الإنسان وتحسين الشفافية والمساءلة.
حضرات السادة والسيدات
Ladies and gentlemen, the participants, I would like to inform you that at the beginning of each session, we will have a series of 5 questions that we will be asking you through the poll. So you can find them on the right side of the screen. There will be a red light once the questions start. So please answer these questions in less than 1 minute. These are relatively easy questions, and you might answer by yes or no. Thank you. Let us now move to the first session regarding the coordination capacity of the national mechanisms for implementation, reporting, and follow-up with Dr. Mohammed Abdel Menachem, the chair of the Committee on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. Dr. Abdel Menachem, the floor is yours.